Chapter 1. It all started with a simple wedding invitation. It arrived in the mail during the bleak, frozen days of late February. To anyone else, it was just a piece of cardstock. But the moment Mom tore it open, the envelope, and read the news, she went into a frenzy. She became frantic with excitement, instantly transforming into a whirlwind of chaotic planning. Every single detail, every mile, every single ounce of the trip to visit Aunt Flora was meticulously mapped out on her yellow legal pads. She didn't just plan a trip, she orchestrated an escape. Within a few short weeks of receiving that invitation, the car was packed to the brim. We turned our backs to the bitter, biting shell of Wisconsin winter, left the snow-packed roads behind, and headed west towards the state of Oregon. As Mom and I boarded the plane, our high spirits instantly deflated. We were separated. Instead of sitting next to my mother, comfortingly close during takeoff, I was relegated to the middle seat next to a total sleazebag. The man possessed an aggressive amount of body odor and some sort of chronic respiratory condition. He looked to be somewhere in his 30s, but judging by his atrocious hygiene, I immediately and uncharitably assumed that he was unemployed and living in the parents' basement. Trying to block him out, I yanked the Sky Mall magazine from the seat back pocket and flipped through the pages lazily, barely listening while the flight attendant droned on through the mandatory safety precautions. The man next to me wouldn't stop hacking. It sounded like a severe asthma attack, frankly, and my patience was wearing dangerously thin. Rolling my eyes, I peered back over the seat and managed to catch my mom's eye a few rows away. She waved back with an innocent, helpless smile. "Help me," my eyes pleaded. My mother sighed and gave a sympathetic shake of her head and mouthed, "Sorry." I groaned internally and leaned into the stiff airline chair and closed my eyes. The man's disruptive wheezing breath kept me from falling asleep, so I grabbed my headphones. As a wave of music finally hit my ears, it began to soothe my nervous acrophobia, working hand in hand with the magic mushrooms I had hastily ingested right before we boarded. Between the drugs and the music, the world blurred, and we sailed smoothly into the clouded atmosphere. I was violently awakened by the sudden aggressive jerk of a forward motion. My stomach lurched hard against the tightened seatbelt as the plane braked hard on the tarmac. My weary eyes adjusted to the brightly lit cabin, and the captain's voice cracked over the intercom, delivering us his usual post-landing greeting. When the seatbelt sign clicked off, I remained stubbornly in my seat while everyone else clamored and fought to yank their luggage from the overhead compartments. Finally, as I stood to leave, the asthmatic man next to me unexpectedly spoke. I rolled my eyes internally, resolving to give him the shortest answer humanly possible. "So, where are you from?" he asked, wiping his face. "Wisconsin," I replied flatly. "Oh, how do you like it there?" "I don't." "Then why is that?" "There's nothing there except dirt and cows," I muttered, moving into the aisle. "Oh, that's too bad," he said, looking a little downcast. "I'm from Ohio." "That's nice," I lied, shuffling forward. "That's all right. A lot of history there. I'm actually heading to a wedding. One of my relatives is getting married." "Have fun," I said, entirely checked out. Just then, my mother appeared in the aisle beside me. "Well, it was nice talking to you." The man sighed, sticking out his hand. I looked down at it, hesitated, and gave a quick, reluctant shake. A layer of grease stuck to my palm, making me shudder with disgust the second I let it go. My mom glanced at the man, and then at me, giving me a pointed look before smiling. "Are you ready?" she asked. What a stupid question, I thought. Gripping the handle of my suitcase in front of me, elbows tucked in tight, I tried to maneuver through the narrow, suffocating aisle, putting the man out of my mind. He walked slowly and solidly down the carpeted airport terminal. Suddenly, a cold twinge of fear shot down my spine. I viciously dug through my pockets, finding nothing but lint and empty air. My mom stopped, noticing my panic. "What is it, Thomas?" My iPod. I think I left it on the plane. She groaned loudly. Oh, Thomas, wherever it is now, probably gone. The words hit me like an arrow to the heart. Sick to my stomach, I started walking down the airport hallway again, my suitcase gripped tightly in my hand. The weight of the luggage seemed to drag my entire arm down, banging awkwardly against my thigh every step I took. My mom looked at me out of the corner of her eye, shaking her head. As I glanced up at the neon escalator sign, a familiar raspy voice cut through the terminal noise. It was the asthmatic sleazebag. I turned around. He was jogging towards us, waving his hand and coughing aggressively with each step he took. I was honestly surprised his lungs hadn't collapsed yet. He finally caught up to us, coughed heavily into his sleeve, and struggled to catch his breath.
I believe this belongs to you.
He wheezed, opening his palm to reveal my iPod.
You dropped it while you were getting your luggage.
I stared at him in utter disbelief. He gently handed it over. I don't know what to say, I stammered, a mix of shock and intense relief washing over me. My mom nudged me hard, sharp edge of her voice. Made me a thank you? I shouldn't have to tell you that. A flush of genuine gratitude hit my cheeks, overcoming my previous disgust. I smiled at him. Thanks, truly. The man nodded and turned and blended back into the airport crowd. Mom and I kept walking. About 50 feet later, the crowd thinned out near a quieter corridor. Up ahead, I saw a man walking with his earbud in, speaking into his phone. His voice drifted back to me clearly.
Hey, Flora, I just flew in. The flight was pretty long. Yeah, I ended up sitting next to some Brad who was exceptionally rude. But other than that, there isn't too many delays. I'm actually headed to my hotel soon. When should I meet you and Jean for dinner?
A violent, icy tightening gripped my gut. The sound of the man's voice slowly faded into the ambient chatter of anxious passengers as my mother and I stepped into the cool, dark Oregon night air.